At this stage, I don't even know what to say anymore because every single Radeon generation, we always keep hearing from AMD themselves how they're going to be aggressive, they're going to take market share, and that gamers will be happy about what we put out. But if you look at all this information that's coming up surrounding the upcoming RX 9070 series, especially when it comes to pricing, it's like they haven't learned anything. The usual Nvidia minus $50. Yeah, that worked out so well for you guys the last 10 times. Let's discuss that in this video.
Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video.
Hey, what is going on, guys? Danny here. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope you've all been doing well. I wanted to touch base with you guys and follow up on some topics we previously discussed, and this was pertaining to AMD's upcoming RX 9070 series GPUs. Right now, the GPU market, I would say, is in quite the dire situation, mostly thanks to Nvidia and its RTX 50 series. If you're someone who keeps up with the hardware news, and you probably know what's going on, it seems like every day there seems to be something new that comes out pertaining to the RTX 50 series. And I actually have a video in the works that I'll be posting soon because I recently got my hands on a 5070 Ti, and let's just say it's been a roller coaster, and it set me quite a bit back. And yeah, I'll explain more in that video, but for now, we're going to leave it at that. But in terms of Nvidia's issues, it's wild. I don't think I've ever really seen a generation where they've been in such a mess in regards to stuff like stock issues, GPUs melting, GPUs being sold with missing ROPs, so customers actually aren't getting the product that they overpaid for, and a whole bunch of other nonsense, which just baffles me how a trillion-dollar corporation has indulged in all of this. The reason why I mention all that is because this basically leaves the net wide open for AMD to capitalize on. They have a golden opportunity once again. I don't know how many times I've said that at this point. Fingers crossed that they actually capitalize on it. But, this is the Radeon group we're talking about after all. AMD is going to be hosting a live stream on February 28th at 8 a.m. Eastern, where they're going to be finally unveiling the RDNA 4 architecture, the RX 9070 series, FSR4, and perhaps some other cool new features that will enhance your gameplay experience. But it turns out that a lot of their official marketing material and slides were recently leaked, and that gives us a perspective on where performance of these cards is going to stack up against current offerings in the market. This information comes from videocards.com, and they probably have access to the full press deck at this point, and AMD sends those out to reviewers a few days before the official unveiling. Although they haven't actually posted the whole thing here, but they do include a bunch of information that pertains to gaming benchmarks. So the first thing that we see is that there is a screenshot that states how the RX 9070 XT is 42% faster than the Radeon 7900 GRE at 4K Ultra settings, but there are some more figures included from AMD's official numbers. So at 1440p, it looks like it's about 38% faster than the 7900 GRE, and 51% faster than the 6900 XT at 4K this time with max settings. But I find it interesting that AMD compared the 9070 XT to the 7900 GRE, a card that wasn't even widely available in the market for a time, and I think a comparison to the more popular 7800 XT would have been better, as that card, again, was more accessible. But could this comparison have been made because this is the price point that AMD is targeting? We'll talk more about pricing later on in the video, but if we take AMD at their word, and the 9070 XT is really about 40% faster than a GRE, then I think this would put the card in a very good position versus the competition. And using Tech PowerUp's GPU database, if we set the 7900 GRE as the baseline, this will give us a better idea on where this 9070 XT is going to land. So, if it really is going to be about 40% faster on average, then that would put it on par with something like a 7900 XTX or the RTX 5070 Ti, which is very, very good performance, don't get me wrong. That level of performance is great for playing games at 4K, 1440p, and obviously amazing at 1080p. But before you guys get too excited, we do have to take some things into consideration. And perhaps it may not be as fast as the figures from AMD are alluding to, depending on how you look at it. Because Video Cards did also post a chart which consists of the various games AMD included, and if you look at the list, there's 9 games there that are using ray tracing. The reason why this is important to take a note of is because AMD has said that RDNA 4's ray tracing will be much, much better because they have reworked the RT cores. They're improving the GPU's ability for BVH traversal, and also if these cards or these benchmarks were done using FSR4, which is an AI-based upscaler, then there could be some further performance benefits there. And I think that's likely what is happening here, because if you take a look at some of the games where ray tracing is involved, the 9070 XT is around like 50% faster, if not much higher than that. So obviously that's pulling up the average score higher. But there are still some games just using regular raster techniques, and the 9070 XT is still 40% faster in some of those titles. So performance overall for the 9070 XT is still looking very, very promising. Shifting away from the 9070 XT, and we have the non-XT variant, and this card is also showing us some very promising figures as well. So on average, it seems to be about 20% faster, according to AMD's own numbers, over the 7900 GRE, which, again, using Tech PowerUp's GPU database, allows us to see that would position the card at a 7900 XT level. And I gotta say, RDNA 4 as an architecture is actually looking like a better leap overall than I had anticipated, because you have a GPU like a 9070 non-XT with 56 compute units. And, yes, the official specs were also leaked, so if you guys want to check those out, I'll have a link in the description. But if this card can deliver performance that's in line with the 7900 XT, a card with 50% more compute units consistently in raster while also offering much better ray tracing performance, that is very, very impressive. So it makes me wonder, what if AMD did come out with a 96 compute unit RDNA 4 GPU? Would that have been able to go toe-to-toe with a 5090? I know it's probably not going to be happening. AMD has already said that there's not going to be a high-end card this generation, but it still makes me wonder what could have been. Nonetheless, I think AMD have nailed the performance aspect of these GPUs. For the vast majority of consumers that are playing at 1080p and 1440p, these cards are going to deliver adequate performance. I don't think reviewers themselves are going to find them complaining about the actual performance figures. However, the reason why I didn't sound so excited is because the success of these cards is going to be highly dependent on how AMD positions them in the market. What are they going to cost? And over these past few generations, we have seen, AMD come out with a series of cards that, could have shaken up the market, but instead they went with the minus $50 compared to Nvidia, and then they end up with poor reviews, sales are poor, and then 2 months later, the card is selling for what it really should have launched at. But at that point, the damage has already been done. So there were some cards listed over on Micro Center, and these were all from custom AIB models. So if you were wondering what the reference cards are going to cost, where are they going to be available, it's not going to be happening. Sorry. There just isn't going to be any reference card this time around because, AMD apparently have said that there's going to be no reference models. And that worries me because over on the Nvidia side, we have seen how rampant AIBs have been with their pricing relative to the official MSRP. But if you take a look at these prices, the numbers are just all over the place. You have an ASRock 9070 XT, which is listed at $700, and then you have a custom card listed at $1,100 from Asus and I think it was Gigabyte. So there are still some very big disparities happening here, alluding to these possibly being, placeholder prices. Like a 9070 XT that costs more than the MSRP of a 5080. That just seems ridiculous. It's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. But then again, you can't even buy a 5080 at MSRP. So, is this the route that AMD is taking? That, hey, we're going to announce cards that are at higher prices because, can you buy an Nvidia card at MSRP? Personally, what I think is going to happen is that the 9070 XT will have an MSRP of $650, and the 9070 non-XT is going to have an MSRP at $550. So the same price as the 5070. And I think, people who are expecting the 9070 XT to have been sold at $550 are going to be left pretty disappointed. And, also one of the leaked marketing materials was this slide that said how 85% of the PC gaming user base is consisting of users who spend less than $700, and this was based on AMD's own internal data. This exact approach is what they had used when Raja Koduri had announced Polaris back in 2016. But do you guys remember this slide? Yeah. This was stating how back then 85% of the user base was within that $100 to $300 segment. And I don't know, this kind of stung, I'm not going to lie, because Obviously, as time goes on, things are going to go up, inflation and etc. But I don't know, it's still eye-opening to see just how much the GPU landscape has changed, because back then $700 was reserved for the high-end and enthusiast crowd, and now we're looking at the mainstream and mid-range segment being in that $500 to $700 or $800 range. And yeah, it's just crazy to see where that range has shifted up. But yeah, again, they're using that same approach, and it's like, it kind of alludes to what the 9070 XT is going to be priced at. And I don't know. I think people who are saying that it's going to be $500 are going to be left very disappointed. I think $650 is a safe bet. But back in early January, I was like, if AMD charges more than $600 for a 9070 XT, it's going to be DOA. But now, given everything that we've seen from Nvidia's side, I feel like even at $650, I don't know, I feel like they could maybe make some noise. But if there are going to be AIBs who sell the cards for the same price as Nvidia, then I don't know. I don't think that's going to work. This is really going to be dependent on also what new features AMD is going to bring. How good is FSR going to be? Can it compete with Nvidia's impressive transformer model? Will AMD have something like ray reconstruction? Will they have something unique on their end that Nvidia does not have? These are all things that are all really going to be looked at. It's not just about, is X GPU faster than Y GPU in terms of FPS, but there's also the whole software aspect of it and the features. And if AMD is going to take a stance where they're only undercutting Nvidia by like $50 or $100, then the software aspect of it is going to be highly weighted. So at the end of the day, if AMD really wants to gain market share like Jack Hewen said they wanted to go for, they're going to have to get aggressive. They're going to have to ensure that there's going to be an abundance of models available, and the models that are available are closer to MSRP. Because what if AMD does come out and say, hey, the 9070 XT, that's going to be $550, but that's the official MSRP if there was a reference card, but then you have AIBs charging like $800 plus, and then they just use them as a scapegoat. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see. We're going to find out more tomorrow when they're officially unveiled. And then come March 6th, when they hit store shelves, that's when the whole truth about pricing will be unveiled. But for now, that's going to be wrapping it up for this one, and we're going to touch base in the next video.
If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.